Rebel Wolves, the studio behind the upcoming single-player third-person action RPG, The Blood of Dawnwalker, just released a 45-minute video giving us some new gameplay, a new story trailer, some new information, a release date, all that good stuff. So we're going to get into it all in today's video. Chapter markers below if you want to skip ahead to more gameplay-focused discussion. Let's start off with the biggest news, though, and no, it's not release date. It is that you can transform into a wolf in this game if you unlock a certain perk.
Early in the game, we can unlock a perk that allows us to transform into a wolf and move faster at night. There's also a daytime equivalent, but more on that later.
Figured I'd share that first, but now let's talk about the release date. The Blood of Dawnwalker will be releasing on Steam, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S on September 3rd of this year, 2026. And if you think about it, that really is not that far away. It's just over 4 full months. So before you know it, we're going to be jumping into Dawnwalker. Now, the game's price tag is going to be the same whether you buy on PC or Xbox Series or PS5, and it's going for $69.99, so $70 US. And this seems to be a little bit on the controversial side, and I can understand why, because some of the visuals and, you know, maybe the animations and stuff look a little bit more on the AA side, which initially makes you think it's going to be cheaper than full price. But it is going for 70. I don't even know what full price would be these days for a AAA game. Is it 70? Is it 80? I don't even know what it is anymore. But, you know, if they can come through with the sandbox narrative elements of the game, I'm okay with the visuals not necessarily being top tier as long as other aspects of the game really shine. And as of right now, I really do like everything that I'm seeing, but it'll be interesting to see how people take this price tag. Is it just like a quick burst of anger out of a few people, or is this something that a lot of people don't think is worth 70? I'm not entirely sure. And this brings us into the different game editions that you can purchase or pre-order, as you can pre-order as of today. And we have digital editions here and then also physical editions. So let's start with the digital editions. The base game, like I said, is $70 US if you're paying in USD, and you get the base game, but anybody that pre-orders any edition here will get the Sangorn Wayfarer's armor set. But do note that Rebel Wolves did state that you can get this in the game too. Surprised that they allow that, but bravo. That's a cool thing to allow that. I thought it would have been exclusive to pre-ordering, but you can get it in game. When you can get it in game, I'm not sure. Maybe it's later on, but regardless, anybody that pre-orders will get that armor set. And then we have the Eclipse edition here, which is basically like your digital deluxe edition, and it's going to cost $10 more. So basically $80 US for people paying in USD. And you get the base game, of course. You also get a world compendium, which is like an art lore type book. And if we look at the physical or look at the collector's edition, you can see it right here, but you're getting the digital version of this, so not the physical version. You also get the game's soundtrack sent to you, as well as a digital comic book. And then, of course, you get the armor set. And then over on the right side here, we have the physical game editions, the Day 1 edition and the Collector's edition. The Day 1 edition includes the base game, the Steelbook, as well as the world map. But do note that Day 1 editions will be available in selected retailers worldwide, both for pre-orders and for the release, while supplies last. After that, the Standard edition will include the base game only. So if we go over here to the visual for the Day 1 edition, you get this Steelbook right here with Brensis on the cover, and the map is underneath it. And of course, if you pre-order, you end up getting that armor set as well. And if we go over to the Bandai Namco store, actually, I'll put a link to this down below. You better see the Day 1 edition is actually showing $69.99. Some of you guys might be able to find this on Amazon right now, and it might take a few days to show up in some retail stores around you. And then also we have, of course, the collector's edition, which Rebel Wolves does have a little visual presentation that'll have playing right now that you can see. And the collector's edition includes the base game, of course, the world compendium, digital version, the digital comic book, the digital game soundtrack, but then also the steelbook, the world map, the world compendium physical version, and Cohen's figures, of course, the big item here that many people will be looking at. And then we also have this graphic right here to show it off, and you can see everything that comes with it. And over on the Bandai Namco store, it is showing at $199.99 regardless of what platform you pre-order it on. Do note though that it seems like certain regions it's not available, which makes sense. And if you go on the Bandai Namco European store, you're not going to see United States as a choice. So if you're an American, just note that it might be available, just you might be on the wrong web page. Also in Dawnwalker news, we have the system requirements PC chart here. Now, I'm not really the guy to talk about this too much. Keep an eye out for some of the more tech-focused channels. I'm sure they'll dive deeper into this and hopefully be able to run some tests on the game before the game comes out, some benchmark tests. But I do see a decent amount of people that are concerned for the requirements here for running the game on the recommended settings here. So 1440p at 60 FPS, specifically requiring a 4070 Ti or a 7800 XT for AMD GPUs. People seem to think that's pretty high, especially for a game that doesn't necessarily have the greatest visuals that we've seen in a while. And then also keep an eye on the CPU requirements here to play on recommended for both 1080 and 1440p. I can't really speak much on this. Also note that 16 gigabyte is the RAM recommendation here across the board. 16 gig seems to be the new 8 gig. Fortunately, 8 gig seems to be running behind these days for higher end AA games or AAA games. And it sucks because RAM is just so expensive right now, but this is the direction we are headed. Keep an eye out for channels that actually dive deep into this though, because you should just be, I would be concerned if you don't have a great PC. Keep an eye out. Now, the most fun news here is the new open world gameplay that we got to see, 13 minutes of it. And overall, I gotta say, I was very happy with what I was seeing. Sure, there's a few things here and there that I could and will criticize, but overall, I'm really liking how this game is playing and looking. And this gameplay presentation is noticeably better in so many areas than previous presentations. Everything looks smoother. The visuals in general do look better. The UI has been ironed out a bit. And yeah, I've already been excited for this one for a while, but this gameplay presentation in particular has solidified my confidence a bit more that I'm going to enjoy this game. We got to watch Cohen do some open world activities in this gameplay segment, scouting out the area on a tower, transforming into the wolf form, which was unexpected. I did not expect this to be a mechanic, but this basically serves as the game's version of having a mount. And the wolf is actually going to have a different daytime version or form, but they didn't really show or talk too much about that, but it's interesting to think about. We got to watch Cohen save a few villagers from what appears to be bandits of some sort. The player is using Cohen's claws in this combat encounter, which is a feature of Cohen's vampire form, and you turn into a vampire at night. But do note that in vampire form, you can still use swords. And in this combat demonstration, actually in all of them, the big news here is that Rebel Wolves was listening to player feedback, and they have made it so that you don't have to use the skill wheel and, you know, pause the game and slow things down and have this huge giant skill wheel pop up in front of you to use a skill. They now have quick selection, which allows you to just use skills like you would in most other action RPGs. You don't have to go into the big slow time pause menu. And I think this is a really, really, really great decision. The combat seems like it flows so much better, but I'm assuming we can still use the skill wheel if we want when we're in like a hectic situation. Really, really happy to see Rebel Wolves listening to feedback. Also important to note is that if you've not been keeping up with Dawnwalker information and videos and stuff, you might have noticed that the combat does feature a directional system where you have to move your mouse or joystick in a certain direction to successfully attack or block incoming directional attacks. I'm personally excited for this system. I really like the combat in KCD 2, but it is very divisive. I do want everyone to know that in a previous development update, Rebel Wolves did announce that there will also be a combat mode where you don't have to use directional combat. So very important to note, if you're not into directional combat, this game still might be right up your alley. Hopefully we can see a little bit more on the non-directional action combat at some point before release. We learned a little bit more about corruption levels, and you gain corruption by feeding in this game, when in vampire form, of course. And you can see Cohen feeding on a deer right here, which causes his corruption to go from 5 to 6. And of course, feeding will be a heal for your Cohen as well. Now, I'm assuming that feeding on humans will cause more corruption buildup than animals, but I'm not 100% certain. Now, the higher your corruption, the more vampiric perks are available to you. So you do gain like potential power here But we were told in previous updates that the higher that your corruption is, there's a higher chance of you actually losing control of Cohen. And this can result in events such as, uncontrollably killing an NPC that you really like and don't actually want to kill. Interesting system. We also learned that to unlock perks on your skill trees, you need to find or buy manuals. So the player here finds a precision manual in this chest, and finding this manual unlocks the ability, you might have to read it too, I'm not sure, but this unlocks the ability to invest into the newly unlocked precision perk, which falls under the swordsmanship tree. Now, to actually acquire the perk though, so not just unlock it, you have to then find and unlock a shrine, which are located throughout the world. And to unlock shrines, you need to acquire certain parts. And then once that shrine is unlocked, you can then click the perk option, and then you'll have to spend experience points as well as time segments to actually acquire the perk. This is really interesting because I think up until now, we didn't realize that to buy perks, it's going to cost you time segments. So in this game, you have 30 days and 30 nights to complete the main story of the game. The game goes on after that, but the main quest itself, you have 30 days and 30 nights. And there's various things that you'll do that will cause time to go forward, all of which you will knowingly know that time is going to go forward if you do said thing, such as completing a specific quest will tell you that time is going to go forward this much. Well, now apparently to unlock perks, time also goes forward too, at least for this perk. I think this is going to be quite controversial or divisive because I did not expect that unlocking, skills and perks in this game would be related to time whatsoever, like the time system. It is like this in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, like you read books and it passes some time, but Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 doesn't really have, this time is of essence thing where you have 30 days and 30 nights. So this is really interesting that they're choosing to do this. I'm not completely against it, nor am I all for it. I'm more so curious why they want it like this and how that ties into their design. I'm willing to give it a shot, but I do think there's going to be some conversations going on out on the internet about this for sure. Also note that with these shrines, you can also fast travel with them. There's some sort of storage system associated with the shrines. And you can also wait, which is past time. I'm not sure what type of time it is. I'm assuming it's that in-game time though. So if you want to speed things up, you have that option. But now let's talk about the super interesting Infamy system. So after Cohen kills some of Brensis's military guards, and Brensis is the main antagonist of the game, the vampire lord who is currently controlling the region, you'll notice that after he kills these guards, the player's infamy increases. This bar pops up. And what happens when your infamy goes up is that the game actually becomes more challenging, as what it represents is how much the vampire overlords know about your activities, how much you are disrupting them. So of course, killing the lead vampire's military folks, when that news arrives back to Brensis, he is going to place the region in higher alert. For example, he may have more guards or something along those lines. This system plays heavily into choice consequence, gameplay and narratively speaking, because you, the player, will have multiple ways to do things in this world. So you don't actually have to kill Brensis's guards in this situation, but if you do, it will have an effect on the world. Now, this system can be viewed under the court menu. We finally got to see this tab in the interface menu. And when the player scrolls over the vampire Ambris, for example, you can see right here that Ambris has his own anger level bar on the bottom of his description box. And we're told that when these anger bars for the different vampire lords reach their peaks, you'll unlock new quest lines, which will influence the story and also have an effect on how things play out with Brensis, the main antagonist. All these little boxes that you see right here represent activities that you can do that will disrupt one or several of the vampires. Really interesting system here that plays more heavily into the game being an RPG, which I really appreciate. We still have a lot to learn about it, but cool introduction. I'm happy that we now know about it. And I think it's neat that, you can choose to make the game harder for yourself if you want to. You got some risk versus reward here. Maybe you want to kill this group because you want to get some item that they're holding on to, but the game is going to possibly become a little bit more challenging for you overall. So maybe you choose not to, but that choice is what is so special in RPGs. And the last thing pertaining to this new gameplay that I wanted to talk about, and do note that I'll do an actual deep dive into the gameplay in a different video, But this right here, where the player is approaching, is called a haunted place. And this is some form of open world activity or quest that you can engage with in the daytime while you're in human form, of course. Because to activate the haunted place, it does require astral communion, which is a blood sacrifice of some sorts that 𝑒𝑛 can't do while in vampire form at night. But once 𝑒𝑛 does the astral communion, the world then changes almost as if we've entered a different plane of existence. A combat encounter occurs, and then the player gets some XP, a skill point, and also some loot, which may include some of those perk manuals that we talked about earlier. It's kind of cool to see like an open world activity like this be for 𝑒𝑛 in daytime human form, because it makes you wonder what unique activities are there out there for 𝑒𝑛's nighttime vampire form. Moving on from the gameplay segment, we also got a new story trailer, and if you're like me, story and lore for this game are currently playing a big role in its appeal. But in this story trailer, and I will leave a link down below, it starts off showing us a flashback of 𝑒𝑛 prior to becoming a Dawnwalker, prior to the vampire lords having taken over the region, and he's farming away with his family members, of which we now know he has a few more. But that flashback doesn't last long. So when the vampire overlords took over the region, the vampire lord actually took 𝑒𝑛's family and also infected 𝑒𝑛 with what I'm assuming was supposed to turn him into a vampire or a thrall or perhaps kill him, but actually turned him into a Dawnwalker, because 𝑒𝑛 has silver in his blood from working in the mines for so long. Needless to say, 𝑒𝑛 does not become a prisoner, nor is he killed, and he learns that his family was taken by Brensys and is now going to be sacrificed. Their blood is going to be used for the vampire lord Brensys's coronation ceremony, which will take place in 30 days, and that is of course where the time system comes into play in this game. But like I said earlier, if you don't save your family in time, or perhaps you choose not to, the game apparently still goes on after those 30 days. But in this trailer, we get to meet and see a few new characters, a couple that are seemingly associated with human factions that make up the rebellion against the vampire lords. We have one that appears to be a character that can be romanced and, you know, is heavily related to 𝑒𝑛 and has played a big role in 𝑒𝑛's life. They seem to be very close and she wants to help him. And we also have a character that we did see before who is likely a vampire or a Dawnwalker, but not one that is on Brensys's side. So the trailer is really trying to, you know, push and hint to us that all of these characters likely play crucial roles in the narrative and in the world, but that we can't forget that our choices, what we choose to do, how we handle things, who we choose to ally with, etc., will affect these characters, whether they become allies, perhaps enemies, or maybe even something else. And I'm going to leave it at that for this video. Overall, I really enjoyed this presentation, and there's so much more information that I could talk about as well, but I wanted to go over the main things in this news video, and then in the future we'll dive deeper into the lore of the story as well as the gameplay. But thank you guys so much for watching. Much more Dawnwalker content on the way. Very excited. Maybe I can do a lore video this week. That would be pretty sweet. I'll catch you on the next one.